You've tuned in to Unpause Your Life with Dr. Callie Estes and Dr. Tara Lynn Sell. Your access to success strategies and more to help you move onward and upward with your life. Listen in each week as they interview others who have really taken their essence to the next level and truly unpaused their life. Now here are your hosts, Dr. Callie Estes and Dr. Tara Lynn Sell.
Hey everyone, welcome to the show. This is Dr. Callie Estes, and I am founder of the Addictions Academy, the Addictions Coach, and Rehab Rescue. Welcome to Unpause Your Life. This is a great podcast where we showcase people who have done something extraordinary with their life. I welcome you, and I hope you enjoy all of our guests.
On my way, found a reason to wake up another day. But they needed to.
You are listening to Unpause Your Life with Dr. Callie Estes of the Addictions Coach, the Addictions Academy, and my lovely co-host,
Dr. Tara Lynn Sell from drtaralyn.com.
And I'm very excited today because y'all know I'm pro-cannabis. We've got a wonderful guest. We have Nurse Susan, who is into medical cannabis education and consulting. Her name is Susan Marks. She's an RN, BSN, PHN, and she is a cannabis nurse and a member of the American Cannabis Nurses Association. She works with medical patients who want to include cannabis therapeutics in their health management program. She educates and consults with clients on the endocannabinoid system and how cannabis works in their body and is specific to their disease or issue, how to select safe and reliable product, the dosing process, the risks and benefits of cannabis, and more. Welcome, Nurse Susan.
Thank you, Callie. I'm very happy to be here. Hello, Tara Lynn.
Hello. This is super exciting for me because, you know, we have a little bit different views on what's going on. So I'm hoping to be enlightened today.
All right. Well, I love talking about it.
So I'm in the addiction industry purely. I don't do mental health. I don't do anything else. I do straight addiction. And they've classified cannabis as a Schedule I with heroin. Can you enlighten us on that, why they would have done that or why they've put that out there?
Yes, I can. So way back in 1934, and before that actually, cannabis was the most widely prescribed medicine in the United States, and it was mainly sold in tinctures. And if you were to research on the history of cannabis, it's actually been used as medicine for more than 5,000 years. Unfortunately, in the 1930s, some powerful politicians and businessmen felt that hemp was a major competition to their, for example, Randolph Hearst, who had all the newspapers and had millions of dollars invested in forests so that he would have paper for his newspaper. He felt that hemp was a huge competition because hemp grows very fast. It's an excellent source for paper. So that was one thing. And also at the time, DuPont was just coming out with their synthetic fabrics, which were made from petrochemicals such as nylons, etc. And hemp is also a great source for fabrics and textiles. So anyway, they were able to use their influence to get Congress to pass the Marijuana Tax Act. And basically it forbid farmers to grow hemp, actually. And the American Medical Association at the time testified before Congress and said, we don't like this because we use cannabis. It's an excellent drug and it needs more research, but they weren't successful in stopping that from happening. So, also at the time, the new pharmaceutical industry was starting. And so there was just a lot of, pushback on hemp mainly, but also on cannabis. So when the Controlled Substances Act in the 1970s became a thing, they put cannabis in as a Schedule 1 with heroin and LSD, etc., as a way to, well, as Nixon was president, he was trying to control the hippies, the anti-war demonstrators, the Afro-American people of color. And so even though he had commissioned a research, it's called the Schaefer Commission, to study cannabis so that he could back up his, prohibition stance against cannabis, the Schaefer report came back and said, cannabis is pretty good. So he squashed that report and continued on with the scheduling of cannabis as a Schedule 1. So when something is put as a Schedule 1, it has to meet 3 criteria. Number 1, that there's no medical benefit whatsoever. Number 2, that it is addictive. And number 3, that it is very unsafe. So in terms of heroin, that's probably pretty appropriate to have heroin in there. With cannabis doesn't meet any of those criteria. It's used a lot for medical purposes. Nobody has ever died of a cannabis overdose. And it's about as addictive as coffee. So if you are
I just had 3 Cafe Bustelos this morning. Dr. Terlin's in trouble. I had Cuban coffee.
Wow.
We're both in trouble. I just have a question about that because there's been a lot of people that sit on my couch that are really negatively impacted by smoking weed all day.
Yeah.
So talk about that for just 1 second. Yeah.
Sure, no problem. So really anything can be abused, and I don't advocate at all what you just described, that people sit around all day and they smoke all day. That is, behaviors of abuse. But if you were to suddenly withdraw cannabis from somebody who is a chronic user and abuser of it, they won't go through the types of withdrawals that you see with the opioids. There is no life-threatening. Okay, so they'll have a headache, they'll have sleeplessness, they'll have irritability, very similar to coffee withdrawals, but they won't have that physiological withdrawal that needs medical supervision in a lot of cases. So in terms of dependence, there can be a psychological dependence. And I see it with artists and, the creative people who think, I need to smoke first before I can get creative. That's a psychological dependence. It's not like they can't paint unless they have smoked some cannabis. They can physically do it, but they have a mental kind of concept that cannabis is what they need to be creative. And it's erroneous, obviously, but it can create that kind of dependence.
And I think that's an important distinction to make because cannabis has like the best reputation of any drug that's out there for being healthy and things. But that doesn't mean that it cannot be psychologically addictive. So I think people do miss that part in conversation. That part is distinctly missed.
Right. It's just like any other drug. If you use cannabis responsibly and strategically, then it's a wonderful tool. If you abuse it just like anything else, it's going to be harmful.
Well, and I think we don't really make the distinction between THC and CBD. And I noticed on your website, you make a very big distinction between the two components.
Who's we? Who's we? We don't make it. Let me clarify who's we.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm speaking for everybody in the world, right?
That's hilarious.
Speaking for me, woman? What are you talking about?
Well, chime in for God's sakes.
I'm trying, but the phone's ringing and you're having technological issues. And I'm going to get all this shit out.
Oh, God, that's funny.
So go ahead. Go back to your question.
Okay, so there is So in the cannabis plant, there are literally hundreds of compounds. There are cannabinoids, which are the two most familiar are the THC, the CBD, CBN, etc. Then you have your terpenes, which are the essential oils in cannabis that give cannabis such a distinct and strong smell. Mm-hmm. And then there are flavonoids. So we typically focus on the cannabinoids and the terpenes. So with CBD and THC, THC is the only cannabinoid that creates that psychoactive high. And CBD does not create a psychoactive high, but it is a muscle relaxant. It's a body relaxant. So I like to think of CBD as working from the neck down and THC working from the neck up. The benefits of using them together, actually using a whole plant medicine. So you have a little bit of all the different cannabinoids in there is really the optimal way to treat a medical issue therapeutically because they all interact with each other. So if you were just to isolate CBD, for example, you will get some benefits. And if you have just, minor complaints or whatever, that's fine. And you can buy an over-the-counter CBD product. You don't need to go to a dispensary. You can go online, etc. But if you have some pretty significant medical issues, for example, if you have an autoimmune disease, you're going to want to look for a whole plant product so that you get CBD, a little bit of THC. And one of the misconceptions with using cannabis for medicine is that people think, oh, well, that just means you're going to get high. But since THC is really the only compound that creates that psychoactivity, you can modulate that. There are products out there that are, for example, a ratio of 25 to 1, where you have 25 CBDs to 1 THC. So, and then you can go from a 25 to 1 all the way down to a 1 to 1. So you have equal parts of the CBD and the THC. And if you talk to any of the medical clinicians who are involved in the cannabis space, pretty much they'll all say that you need a little bit of THC to really be treating the issue completely, because the CBD actually diminishes the psychoactivity of THC, but THC boosts the effects of CBD. So, and CBD has a ton of medical applications. It's an anti-inflammatory, it's anti-seizure, it's antidepressant, anti-anxiety, it relieves pain. There's a whole long list of what CBD does. So by adding just a little bit of THC to that, not enough to make you high, but enough to kind of boost the effectiveness of CBD, that allows you to take less medicine. And let's face it, it's kind of expensive. It's out of the reach for a lot of people. So if you can use it strategically, so you use the lowest effective dose and, you're getting the maximum benefit from it, then it's a wonderful tool. And if you learn more about the plant itself and how each of the different cannabinoids and terpenes have their own therapeutic effects, then you can create protocols that will address the different issues in the most effective way.
Okay, so I've got some questions for you.
Okay.
First off, I'm in the industry. I'm huge pro cannabis. Now, we got a house in Colorado. My stepson is the second to apprentice under the second person who got their license ever to offer grow housing. So he's a grower. He's a master grower. Now, I took my husband out there and I smoke. Nothing happens. I get a little sleepy, go to bed. No big deal. My husband smokes and he can't handle it. So my stepson is like, well, we have these edibles. I don't like the edibles. They make me feel funky. So he gives my husband an edible, which is 100 milligrams. He does the edible and he has effects of LSD. I want you to talk about why certain people have that and certain people don't. So for me, I'll smoke, Gorilla Glue is my favorite. Knocks me out, puts me to sleep. My husband smokes Gorilla Glue and he is wigging out like people are coming in through the windows. It's hysterical. So why?
Only you.
What? You want to Why does it metastasize differently, or what's different in other people's bodies? Because my stepson can do 200 milligram bar of an edible and he's cleaning the house.
Mm-hmm.
My husband is looking out the window and I go to sleep. So it affects the three of us so differently.
But everybody, I think of psychotropic medication impacts people differently. Some people will do well on it, so to speak, and other people will not. I say that because I'm not a huge proponent of that. But everybody is physiologically
what? So wait a minute. Are you pro psychotropic medication or are you pro cannabis? You can't be both. Pick a fence.
Stop. I'm pro holistic.
Okay. So I'm anti big pharma. And everyone knows that. I'm against all the nonsense they put in your body. I would rather you go CBD, THC than you go Seroquel and Wellbutrin and Suboxone and methadone and all that other garbage. So,
no kidding. No. I am the same way, except if you are psychotic or schizophrenic.
I'm always psychotic. Are you kidding me?
We're not debating that today. That's a whole different That's a whole different one.
You guys are hilarious.
We try to keep it interesting and entertaining. But I want to know what the difference is. And I don't want to compare it to big pharma. I want to talk about specifically cannabis because in the addiction space, people say THC is a drug. They say you can't take it. And I know the differences. I know how they split it. I know CBD oil doesn't have the effects, but they're always arguing that it's a drug. Meanwhile, they're going to a meeting, and I'm just going to put this out there because it's my fucking podcast. They go to a meeting and they're doing sugar and they're doing.
It's my podcast too.
Sorry. It's also your podcast. They go to a meeting, they have sugar, they have a Monster, and they smoke a cigarette and they go, you can't smoke weed. And I can't wrap my head around that. I just can't, because I would rather you smoke weed than smoke a cigarette or do a Monster, for God's sake. That crap will kill you, or do sugar. That's my personal view. I know Dr. Tara probably has a different view, of course, on that. So I want to...
I seem to recall you drinking a Monster when I saw you last time.
You know what? I'm killing myself slowly. They didn't have Diet Turbo. I'm a caffeine junkie.
She's already had her 3, don't forget.
Right.
I'm working on the iced tea now with the guarana in it.
Well, in some respects, and unfortunately, I'm not going to let Susan get a word in right now, but I will in a second, because I also think about this with CBD oil. All right. So that's kind of a big thing right now. And, I'm on tons of forums about CBD oils. And for some people, they're like, works great. For other people, it's like, doesn't work. And from what I'm gleaning from what you're saying, some of it has to do with the ratio of THC to CBD. And I don't know that that's something that a lot of people also know, the synergistic relationship, right, between that and your body.
Exactly. So there are two issues in terms of the individual response. One is the product, and number 2 is the individual. So if we start with the individual, everybody is different. So what I recommend is that people start with what would normally be expected. So if you have a strain or a product that is known to be relaxing, start with a little bit of that and see if you actually get relaxed. For some people, it actually energizes them. So they have to kind of flip what's normally expected to how they respond. So Gorilla Glue that's a sedating strain. And if your husband is getting wigged out from it, he may do better on an energizing strain such as Blue Dream or a hybrid rather than Gorilla Glue, which is considered an indica. And that's a whole other deal, the classifications of indica and sativa, which aren't really that accurate. But so anyway, so to find out what works for you, if you start with a low dose, and you see how you respond, and you really do need to pay attention, because this is the type of medicine that it's very intuitive. You really have to listen to your body and then respond and tweak the protocol based on how you respond. Now, the second issue is the product itself. There's a lot of crap out there. A lot of people are saying, oh, this is the new green rush. I'm going to be a gazillionaire. I just have to put a CBD product out on the market. And they've done testing on some of these products and they're nothing. Either there's way less CBD than they say. Some of them, they didn't find any CBD in them. So you always need to be cautious with the products that you choose. And I tell everybody, do not use any product that has not been lab tested. Because the thing with hemp or with cannabis is hemp is a bioaccumulator. So if there are any toxins or any heavy metals in the soil, they will absorb it into the plant. And they use hemp in areas where they've had a nuclear disaster, et cetera, to help with the cleanup. So some products bring in the CBD or the hemp from China, which is known to be extremely polluted. So you need to select a product that you know has been grown under the right conditions. And you can find a lot of U.S. grown cannabis or hemp products, and you want to see the lab results. So the lab results will tell you not only the potency and that there actually is some CBD in there, but it will also assure you that there are no pesticides, there's no mold, there's no bacteria, and there are no solvents. Because sometimes in the processing of the plant, they'll use, a butane or some other substance that you really don't want in your medicine. So if you can't take, for example, if they process the cannabis using ethanol, which is basically alcohol, then if there's a little bit left, no big deal. But if there's a little hexane left, you really don't want to take that product. So it's really important to know the product, know it's safe, and know how you respond to cannabis.
Do they have those, I think they're GCMS reports on some cannabis products?
Yeah, the chromatograph.
Yes, all that.
Yeah,
That tells you where it's from and where it's been and blah, blah,
Yeah, exactly. And most, if it's a good product, it will have the lab tests readily available. Here in California, if you're buying a product at a dispensary, there will usually be a sticker on there with a lab name and then the breakdown of the cannabinoids. Or you can go to the product's website and you can look at all the lab results and all the batches and just reassure yourself that it is a good product. One other thing I wanted to mention kind of as a public service announcement. Now that cannabis has become recreationally legal here in California, the cartels are responding because obviously people are going to dispensaries more now than buying it on the black market. So I have a friend whose stepson is the cannabis czar in one of the cities here. And they just did a raid and they got some cannabis, and when they analyzed it, it had been sprayed with fentanyl, which is highly addictive. Ooh. So that is one of the risks now that we need to be aware of, because the cartels are not liking the fact that they now have competition with the dispensaries. So if they spray it with fentanyl, then people have to come to them for more fentanyl.
I have two solutions for that. Number one,
yes,
switch to cocaine instead of weed. I'm being funny. That's my joke.
You're going, oh my God, are you serious? There's so much I don't know about you yet.
No, this is pretty simple. If we as a country, because this is going to hear my political rant today, if we as a country actually just made it legal, we'd put the cartels out of business, number one. Number two, we could regulate the product, tax the product, which gives us revenue stream. But number three, you're getting a quality product because you know what you're getting. You can walk into a dispensary and have a consultation, which they should have, and be able to get the right product and know it's a safe product. But for some reason, our country is slow as fuck. I don't know what the problem is. We have alcohol on every corner, strip clubs on every corner, but we can't get cannabis on every corner. So I haven't quite figured that out. But I totally get what you're saying with the cartels, and I would encourage anybody who uses medical cannabis to make sure you go to a dispensary and get a quality product and do know what you're buying. Because that is correct with the fentanyl. They're even spraying the cocaine with the fentanyl in Miami because they want a highly addicted addict.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah, there's some scary people out there. So you just need to be safe and just choose good products like you were saying.
I just got to know what inspired you in the first place to do this, because it's a pretty interesting space. So what was your inspiration to do this?
So, I've never, other than in college, maybe I smoked a couple times, but I really didn't like cannabis. I was more interested in beer and wine. So I've never been a cannabis user, but in my 40s, I started to display symptoms of a genetic disorder that runs in my family. It's a neurological movement disorder called essential tremor.
Oh, sure.
So for people who don't know what that is, if you think of Katharine Hepburn with her shaky voice and her shaky head, those are some of the manifestations of the condition. And it's a progressive condition. And the way that they treat it is with anti-seizure medication. So I was on anti-seizure medications, and they were probably the scariest things I've ever been on. And I just got desperate because I knew I didn't want to be on this for the rest of my life. So I just started researching, and lo and behold, I started reading the medical research on cannabis and was totally blown away, not only by the potential of it for me personally, but it was like, okay, why don't we all know about this? This is a fantastic gift from the earth for man. And the more I got into it, I was able to wean myself off of the anti-seizure meds as I titrated up my dose of cannabis. And the protocol that works best for me is a high CBD, low THC with some raw cannabis in there, which is THCA. Because since it's a neurological problem, I want something that's very neuroprotective and helps with seizures, etc. So that, after much trial and error, that's the protocol that works for me. And I'm so grateful to be able to have something that manages it. And, cannabis isn't perfect. Do I still tremor? Yes, but I'm not tremoring so badly that I can't go to a restaurant and eat a meal because my hands are shaking so bad that my food spills everywhere. And so I'm very grateful for this. I want anybody who's interested in seeing if it works for them. I want to tell them about it, teach them about it, help them, figure out the right protocol for the right dose, etc. So it's become my passion because it's had such a personal impact on my life and my vision for my future life, because it was a little depressing, I have to say, knowing that I was just going to get shakier and shakier and be given barbiturate anti-seizure medications. And so now to have a positive outlook on my life and know that I have this tool to help me, I want to share it with other people.
Mm-hmm. I think it's a very individual thing. Like, Kaylee's like, pick a lane, Terry, pick a lane. I'm like, I don't know. I think I just need to be open to a lot of different options in lanes sometimes,
Mm-hmm.
Pick a lane. No, I said I want to banter just for fun.
Did we do that?
I started to, and then you shut it down like a mother. You're like, I'm not doing that. Slam. We are not having this conversation. I will talk to you
like a Midwestern mother.
Oh my God.
All right,
Yeah.
I've got another question for you.
Sure.
And this is the one we ask. What's the most badass thing you've ever done? Even something nobody else might know about.
Let's see. The most badass. Is this related to drugs or just anything?
Whatever you want it to be.
Oh my God. Let's see. That's a very good question. Well, I meditate, and I go to a retreat center up in the desert, actually, and it's very beautiful. And so I have taken a couple of times an entire month off and gone into silence. And what that basically means is you're meditative, you're, working in the yard, you're doing whatever, and you really get to know yourself because all you have is what's going on inside your head. And you learn ways of stopping the self-negating, self-defeating dialogue that goes on in your head. And it helps you to really focus in on just this moment. And when you do that, you realize everything's really pretty okay.
That's pretty badass, and I want the 800 number so I can sign Callie up for that.
I don't think I could go an hour without running my mouth, let alone a month.
Clearly.
It's definitely challenging, but
wait
you
till
get a
we
whole
get off
other
this
sense.
podcast, young lady. Wait till we get off.
Oh, now you're the Midwestern mom. Okay, let's do it.
No, I'm the Philadelphia mom. I'm the mom who turns around and goes, if you embarrass me in this fucking store, I swear to God, I'm that mom. Do not make me. I'm that mom.
You're funny.
Well, Nurse Susan,
Hilarious.
it's been a pleasure. Plug yourself.
Totally.
Tell us where our listeners can find you when they're out in LA, how they can get a hold of you and reach you.
Okay, that'd be great. So I have a website. You've mentioned it a couple of times, and I tried to put on a lot of pertinent cannabis education on there. And that website is called dearnursesusan.com. I kind of fashioned it after Dear Abby because I do some writing for other publications, and it's like a weekly or biweekly article. So the website is dearnursesusan.com, and when you go to this site, there are, the links to my Facebook, my Instagram, and my Twitter account. And if you want to send me an email, if you want an answer to a question, you can reach me at hello@dearnursesusan.com.
Awesome. Well, again, thank you for coming on. We appreciate it.
You guys are hilarious. Anytime. We don't even have to record it. We can just talk on the phone.
You are listening to Unpause Your Life with Dr. Callie Estes of the Addictions Coach and the Addictions Academy and my lovely, amazing Midwestern co-host,
Dr. Tara Lynn from drtaralyn.com.
Hey everyone, thanks again for listening. I really hope you enjoyed the show today. Head on over to iTunes and Apple Podcasts and leave a comment or review of what you think. Or contact us at 1-800-706-0318. If you want to be on our show, feel free to email or call. And if you have a topic, feel free to email or call as well.
Thanks for listening to Unpause Your Life. For show notes and more, head on over to unpauseyourlife.com.
Big shout out to recoveryinnovators.com for help producing this show. Thank you guys.
I took a walk down the long road where they said that I shouldn't go. On my way found a reason to wake up another day. But they needed to show you all the things that you won't do. Find faith or religion, but nothing to show for it. No need to escape in love with my pain. down the dark road where they said that I shouldn't go. I knew the dangers of flying. Now I'm so far from solid ground, but they need